Hello, Bradenton Kiwanis. How are we today? Everybody good? Awesome. Awesome. At this time, I'd like to call up Reverend Jasper Jackson to do our invocation.
May we all bow our heads, please. This is a day that the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. This morning, our Heavenly Father, as we come together to give you thanks for another day, we just so happen, so grateful for this gathering, for those that are here. And Father, we thank you for everything, for the food that we have received. But most of all, Master, we thank you for Jesus, who died out on Calvary, went in the grave, and got up early that Sunday morning that we might have this right here today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountain side, let freedom ring. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, so we just found out that during my coronation a couple weeks ago, we missed out on some things. So at this point, I'd like to call up Dave Grantham to finish with the jewels of the coronation. Okay. First part of the coronation, I'd like to call up Neil Unruh as the past president to receive his pin.
Does that say past president on it?
Past peon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on.
All right, next we'd like to call up Kent Jemison as treasurer. As co-treasurer. Sorry, co-treasurer.
All right. Here you are, sir. Thank you very much. Let's get a picture.
Yeah, right in the middle. Awesome, thank you. All right, next I'd like to call up John Mullins as the vice president.
That's got to be it.
All right.
Can we not read it?
No, we got it.
Close enough.
Congratulations.
Might have.
All right, this is
Here, that's fine. Oh, we need a picture. That's
Yeah.
why we have to unsort the. Let me go through these. Let me double check. All right, for you.
sounds good. And now Mike Baer as the president-elect. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
There you go. Get a picture.
Get a picture.
Here, stand here in the middle. Get a picture here.
All right.
Excellent.
All right. Perfect.
And last but not least, myself. Thank you. As the president. So
There you are, sir.
thank you so much. All right. All right. Thanks very much. Enjoy your fellowship. We'll be back at 12:30. Start the program.
Good afternoon, everyone. Guests, when I call your name, please stand so we could give you a warm Kiwanis welcome. Our first guest is Reverend Jackson. We already heard from him. Thank you for attending. Will Robinson and Peggy Robinson. Our guest speakers. Melissa Palazzo with Meals on Wheels. Tara Putin, I was going to say with the chamber, but guest to Christy Haley. Peter Croft with guest of Andy's. And Ellen Haas, guest of Sharon's. Thank you all for attending today and welcome.
Thank you, Rita.
I forgot something. I forgot my pen.
Oh, yeah. Dave, she forgot, we didn't get a pin. No, she never got one.
No, I was only kidding.
Oh, are you only kidding?
I don't have a pen, but I was kidding.
Oh, Rita, we're going to get you a pin. We're going to figure that out. Don't you worry. As my orange jacket will testify, we'll get you a pin. Next, I'd like to call up Christy with community service and update for next week.
Good afternoon. I want to first of all thank everyone who attended the fire alarm installation. I think it was really rewarding to see all of the fire alarms that were installed, and the people were so thankful that we were there. So thank you if you came. We saved lives. Want to announce we have 2 events coming up this next holiday season. So the first one is the Christmas tree sales for the Boys and Girls Club. We are taking 2 shifts. So there's one on November 24th. That is the Friday after Thanksgiving. So if you are in town, sign up, get some holiday spirit, and help the Boys and Girls Club sell out their Christmas trees. The earlier they sell them out, the less work it is for them. And then we'll also be doing bell ringing for the Salvation Army. So please sign up for both of those. Dates will be in Portal Buzz. So be sure and check Portal Buzz if you're available. 2 to 3 hour shifts would be fantastic. Also want to make note, next week right here at Kiwanis, we will be doing, the Red Cross will be coming, and they will also be doing CPR hands only after this meeting. If you would like to participate in that, we'll be separating out the back room, and you can learn all about CPR and how you can save even more lives. So please join us for both of those.
Yeah, we're very, very excited to be celebrating Halloween with dead bodies in the back room. So lastly, I'd like to call Sharon up for membership. Come on, Sharon.
Do you like my orange outfit?
So great, so great.
Figured I'd have to get in this spirit. We have 2 new members as of our October board meeting, and I would like you to meet them. If Rob Rich and Misty Rich could come forward and get a picture. Mac, can you do a picture for us? Oh, Lemoyne. Oh my gosh, Lemoyne. I am so sorry. I have. It must have been my orange. What can I say? All 3. Let's put you 2 in between us.
That's right. That's perfect.
Yeah, how about that?
And one more. Step out just a little bit more, Sheriff.
Okay. Oh, you want more orange? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you as new members. So at this time, I'd like to introduce, yes, sir, Mac.
Right, you mentioned about MHS Key Club and how their service works.
Correct, yeah. So we also are made aware today that the MHS Key Club has overtaken 2,000 hours of service. So we're really, really excited for our Key Club. And right now we're in the works. The most likely we'll be coming and taking over and running our meeting on November 28th. So I'll be looking forward to that date to come. Yes, sir.
And he also mentioned that it's more than all the other Key Clubs combined, right?
More than all the other Key Clubs combined. Thank you, Matt. All right, so at this time I'd like to introduce our speaker today. He's a personal friend of mine. I've known Will for a very long time. He was elected to the Florida Representatives in 2018 and subsequently in 2022, representing District 71. He serves on the committees during the 24 legislative session. It will be Civil Justice. He'll be the chair, Judiciary, Ways and Means, Energy, Communications, Cybersecurity Subcommittee, and the Regulatory Reform and Economic Development Subcommittee. Will is a partner at Blaylock Walters firm where he focuses on real estate development and board-certified Florida law and real estate. He's a member of the Manatee County Republican Executive Committee, the 12th Judicial Circuit Nominating Commission, and the Lakewood Ranch Medical Center Board of Governors, and the past member of the Manatee Chamber of Commerce and Board of Directors. He's a part of the Manatee Young Professionals Legislative Affairs Committees, and Whit Robinson was also the past chair for both Meals on Wheels and the Bradenton Downtown Development Authority. He was a graduate of the Leadership Florida class of 29, and also, like me, the past president of the Manatee Young Republicans. He attended Manatee High, where he served as a student body class president. He also graduated from the University of Notre Dame with his JD from Stetson University College of Law, and is a member of St. Joe's Catholic Church. Robinson has deep roots in South Florida. His grandfather and uncle founded Robbie's Sporting Goods. The family retail business was purchased by Woolworths in 1988 and eventually merged with Champ Sports. If you've been to Robinson's Preserve, that was land donated by the family located much in Bradenton. At this point, I'd like to call up my friend, Will Robinson.
Well, thanks, Andy. And I need one of those bells. That's really a great thing. I'd love to take that to Tallahassee. I actually had to kick someone out of a committee room one time. It was an abortion bill. And anytime you're dealing with that issue, it's very combustible. And the main thing I do as chair is to make sure, even though I have a perspective and I want that bill to get through, I wouldn't have calendared the bill. I want to make sure everyone's viewpoint is respected. And in that situation, I didn't think it was. So I needed a bell to kick this guy out. Last time I was here, Judge Smith, do you remember that? Yeah. So thankfully, you won't be seeing pictures of me in spandex. For those that weren't here, we did about triathlons. I've done, as Andy mentioned, I've done 2 Ironman and some other marathons, and we did the whole session on that. So you're not going to see anything on the screen. I was looking at my picture and how much I've aged. That picture was actually taken before I got in the Florida House, and it shows you what 6 years serving in the Florida House of Representatives can do. But I was elected the same day Governor DeSantis was elected. And I think about that a lot, all we've accomplished over the past 6 years. But I was thinking about what to talk about today, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're going to do upcoming session and a special session. But I thought it may be instructive for you all to hear from my perspective as to a couple bills that I sponsored this session and how it made its way through the legislative process, and kind of an inside tour of how bills make it through the process in Florida. But we are going into I don't know if you heard this, a special legislative session, and this is kind of how it works, frankly, in special sessions. Special sessions are issues that are immediately ripe for consideration. We will have our regular scheduled session in January, but there are a couple issues that the Speaker, the President, and the Governor want to get off our plate. So we're going to be in Tallahassee in a couple weeks, and what normally happens is we get a memo about what are the issues, and the bills will drop about 2 days, if we're lucky, 2 days before session, and they will have bill sponsors, and there's very little opportunity to frankly amend. The Democrats slowly find this out. Very little ability to amend because the issues have already been agreed to by the presiding officer. So we want to get in, get out, get those issues off the table. We frankly had one special session that was totally devoted to property insurance about a year ago. We had one special session that was totally dedicated to redistricting. So in my career, I think this is probably my 9th special session. So I was talking to Mom. Anyone thinks that this is just a 60-day job is kidding themselves. And I thought I knew how long things would go. But we've been very busy. I would say last session was by far the most active session we have ever had, and we may ever have, certainly in my time, or maybe in Florida. Every single week was a major issue, whether it's insurance or abortion or taxation, major policy, heavy policy issues, death penalty. We had 2 of those bills, major issues that we had to deal with. So for this session, I think it'll be a little bit less rambunctious, but I think we will be doing a lot and accomplishing a lot. As I'm speaking, actually, the U.S. House of Representatives is going through a speaker's vote. And it shows you kind of contrasting Florida and our federal partners. we've actually elected our next 3 speakers in the Florida House. So what we try to do, assuming Republicans can maintain control, and the Democrats, by the way, have their lined up minority leaders, is to have those people in place, ready to go, so they're trained and they can hit the ground running. And part of the problem that Congress has, term limits, I think, are an outstanding thing, and that's the problem they're facing there, is we've already elected our people. We know who's coming in, who's not coming in. And I'm sure we've all heard the term vacate the chair ad nauseum over the last week or two. We probably would have had a member in the Florida House of Representatives that would have vacated the last speaker. But we wouldn't have had the votes because right now we have 85 Republicans and 35 Democrats. So there wouldn't have been that small margin that the U.S. Congress is dealing with right now. I was saddened to see Byron Donalds. He didn't make it. They're still voting, by the way, but he didn't make it. I don't know if y'all have heard of Byron Donalds. He's a representative down in Naples, and this is going to my bill presentation I'm going to talk to you about. So Byron, I know Byron very well, and I would love for him to be speaker, by the way. He's a conservative Republican down in Naples. And he had a bill, I was a freshman, he had a bill that would raise the felony threshold for retail theft. And that kind of bothered me as a son of a retailer. But Byron was pitching this as criminal justice reform, and so I was ignoring him. I'm like, if I don't look at him, if I don't come around, maybe he won't notice me. And so I'm sitting in the House chambers, and I'm just trying to mind my business, and I see him, and he's standing over me. He's like, Robinson, I need your attention. So I stand up, and Byron's a big guy. And he makes his whole pitch about his bill, and he's like, will you be with me? And I said, well, Byron, I just can't get there. I can't get there. My family owns retail companies, and I've personally seen people run out of my dad's store, my brother's store, stealing stuff. So I just can't do it. I really need your vote. Really need your vote. And there's another representative, Bob Rommel, standing right next to me. And I finally looked at Byron, and I said, you really need my vote? And he said, I do. I said, you got my vote. And Bob said, that was a great decision, Will. And I say that as an example because not all your votes are in a vacuum. People always assume you go up there and you're going to vote. But there's people, there's issues, there's ideas, there's compromise. And that was an example of me listening to the member, hearing their pitch, frankly knowing that it was just going through the first committee stop, so there was time to amend the bill as it made its way through it. Knowing that, and I did, knowing that I would need Byron on something else down the road. Which I asked for him, and he said yes. So that's part of the give and take of the legislature. I really think that over the past 5 years, I've developed into one of the best bill sponsors in the House. And I say that with great pride. I had an outstanding session last year. I don't think we should necessarily be valued on the number of bills you pass. As a conservative, I don't necessarily think the number of laws you pass should really be on the ticker as to whether you're good or you're bad. But it's an important part of what we do in Tallahassee, and I think it comes down to really 2 main principles. Get staff on board. I mean, staff is incredibly powerful in the Florida House, and just making sure they have ownership with your idea is important. And secondly, involve everyone, and I mean everyone. And I'll tell you a quick story. So as a freshman, I had a very easy bill, a glitch bill, as we call it, and it was ready for the House floor. And some lobbyists came to me and they said, Representative, we have a couple ideas about your bill we can do amendments on and tack them on since you've opened up the chapter. So once you open up a chapter, you can slide any amendment that applies to that bill and vote on it. It's allowable. And so I thought about it, went up to the majority leader, and I said, well, Dane, do you think I should talk to my Senate sponsor? And he said, no, we are the House. We are the House of Representatives. We are the people's House. Let's do it. I authorize you to do it. So I said, okay. So easy, no questions, pass it, ship it over to the Senate. And I thought, well, maybe I should go over there and make sure that everyone's fine. So I walk over there, and Joe Gruters comes by. He's like, oh my gosh, Will, what did you do? And I see a couple other senators, and they're shaking their, we were talking about you in the lunchroom. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do? So I went to the front of the Senate chambers. Now the Senate, unlike the House, and this typifies the difference in the 2 bodies. The House, when a senator arrives, we have to stand up and we welcome them. Senator Boyd, welcome back to the People's House. We all clap. When a representative goes into the Senate, we're treated like you are not welcome here. Do not pass the sacred seal of the Senate. You must stand right here, and you got to wait for a guard, and the guard tells the senator comes to greet you. You can't go on the floor. Well, this time, and she is now the president of the Senate, she was at the time the majority leader, Kathleen Pasadomo, comes up to me, sees me. She puts her hands on my face, and she says, Robinson, your bill is dead. I told them no amendments on that bill. I told them nothing. The bill is dead. And I'm like shocked. This is like the main person in the Senate, and she was just not taking any of my, well, this or that. And I said, well, Madam Majority Leader, what if I strip off the amendments and I ship them back to the Senate? Okay, well, that may work. So I was like, oh, gosh. So I went back to the House. So now, so the Senate stripped off the amendments, shipped it back to the House. So now I have to explain to my members, and this is kind of the time we get a little punchy. It's about 3 days before the end of session, and the big battles are not between Republicans and Democrats, but it's between the House and the Senate, or the Senate and the House and the governor. So I had to make the motion to recede to the Senate. And I got booed by my own party when I had to make that motion. And Democrats are screaming in the back, why are we doing this? We're the House. So I had to make the motion, explain to them that these are issues that didn't go through committee, so let's table them and move on and get the main bill passed. And thankfully got it passed, and the governor signed it into law. So that is kind of my example as to involving everyone. I didn't involve my Senate sponsor. I didn't involve certainly the president of the Senate or the majority leader. So that was a mistake I made as a freshman that I vowed to never make again. So 2 quick bills that I'll talk about. One was deed fraud. So the governor, and actually it was a speaker, the speaker was very concerned about deed fraud. And what that really means is someone signing a fake deed, recording something, taking your property, and sometimes it's a mortgage company is involved, sometimes not, and you don't even know about it. And the speaker, I was in his office, and there's nothing like sitting in the speaker's office. It's very humbling. It's almost like being back in Cliff Walter. He's not here, but as an associate, being, sitting down there, and you're like intimidated, you're writing stuff down. So I had my notepad, and the speaker's like listing all this stuff, and I'm chair of judiciary, or civil justice, and Tommy's judiciary chair, so he had a lot of stuff he wanted to talk to us about, including this. And so Tommy and I are going back and forth trying to decide who's going to take what. And they said, well, Will, why don't you take the deed fraud bill? So I said, okay. So I walked down to the chief of staff, and I said, well, where's the bill? And she said, oh, no, you misunderstood the speaker. You're drafting the bill. So I said, oh, great. I'm a real estate lawyer, but I really haven't dealt much with deed fraud. And so I commissioned the experts together. I brought the Clerks Association together. I brought the Real Property and Probate Trust section together to give me some ideas. And so we cobbled together some ideas. We kept going back and forth with drafts to the point where my staff director came up to me and said, would you stop acting like a lawyer? We need to get this bill filed. We're running out of time, Representative. Please file the bill. So I filed the bill, and thankfully the first committee of reference was my committee, so I calendared my bill. Vice chairman has to preside over it, so we got it through. And I'll never forget this. I was on my driveway, and one portion of the bill, I required real estate agents and title agents, and Jane, you would hate this, to send a letter to the seller of record if a property is under contract or there's a listing agreement, to put them on notice that there may be an issue. And so I had an hour-long conversation to the point where I think I walked to G.T. Bray and back with this lobbyist. And he hated it. And on behalf of the Florida Realtors, he hated it. But he said, I'm not going to blow it up, but I just want you to know my association doesn't like this portion of it. So he was very nice in committee, didn't really, just stated a silent objection. We went back and forth. And before the second committee stop, I then met with the speaker. And I said, Speaker, here's where we are on all the issues. And one of the issues, for instance, I gave the Lee County clerk authority to have a pilot program, which is something that allowed me to file the bill because I wanted that clerk to have some authority to quickly hear some issues that maybe we weren't ready to put in a bill yet, and he could maybe ferret some new things out in this pilot program and give us some ideas for next year. So we were doing all this, and I was talking to the speaker about, and I was very impressed. I mean, because he has an unknown amount of bills that he's worried about, and it was he and I for about a half an hour. And I felt like I was in the Supreme Court. Like he was just grilling me. And he was grilling me on this one. He's like, how is that really going to solve deed fraud? Don't you think those people that are living there are going to know if there's an inspector or there's someone? And I said, you're right, let's take it out. So we took it out of the bill, and the bill passed unanimously all the way through the stops. And We frankly have the best clerk in the state of Florida, Angel Coloniso. She was very helpful, and actually you've already implemented one of the main programs or components of the bill. So if you wanted to sign up, you can sign up with the clerk's office. I think up to 5 properties. I don't know if y'all have up to 5 yet. So you get notified by email if someone sells your property, if there's a deed recorded. So we're trying to combat deed fraud, not only unraveling it after the fraud has occurred, but there's also some stuff in the bill to prevent fraud from actually occurring, like a more stringent witness requirement for deeds and some other things. So that bill passed unanimously. The governor passed it or signed it into law, and that one became law pretty easily. Now, a bill that I've become unfortunately known for a little bit is the parking situation out there on Anna Maria Island. And it's funny, and Galvano told me this one time, and he said, well, sometimes the issues, you're handed the issues that you really don't believe or know that you'll have to handle at that time. Certainly President Galvano's best example for him is COVID. He never planned that COVID was going to be the subject of his presidency a couple years ago. I never thought that this issue was going to be an issue that was going to land on my plate. But it did during COVID. And let me just give you a little bit of background on kind of what my thinking was and the delegation's thinking was. So during COVID, and actually it was a very dark time in our lives. I think it was in April when this happened. The Holmes Beach City Commission passed an ordinance banning street parking within their limits. And I frankly thought it was one of the more shameful times to do that. It was at a Zoom hearing with when folks were worried about other things, illness, folks dying, an unknown virus, and the city of Holmes Beach decided to tie public parking with public health. So I was incensed that that was even something they would even do, take advantage of an opportunity at that time. So President Galvano and I wrote a letter to the mayor expressing our frustration. And we had gotten a lot of comments from business owners and residents about the frustration. And actually, do you know to this time I've only written one letter. I've since written another letter to the mayor of Holmes Beach. But I've only written, because I want the city mayors and council folks, you guys are, you have and commissioners, you have just as important job as I do. I may be elected by more people. It doesn't make me any more important or less important. We all have equal jobs to do. But for us, it was important to make sure people understood that we didn't appreciate that. And for me, it was a little personal, because I can remember having great times with my mom when we didn't have a lot of money, going to the beach, and we couldn't necessarily afford a vacation rental or some of the costs to go out there or a rental, and we would have a great time on the beach. And I think about all those families that just want to try to get out there, that can't afford the $30,000 weekly or monthly vacation rental, or certainly can't afford to buy a home out there. But I've always believed in compromise. So now, fast forward, nothing's been done. Senator Boyd and I, now Senator Boyd has been elected, President Galvano is out. We commissioned a meeting of all the island mayors and the chairman of the county commission, and we tried to come up with some ideas. And I was leading the conversation. How about one side of the street? How about maybe space out the parking? Because I get it. You don't want people parking along your side of your street all day long. But there has to be some reasonability here. Because the problem that's happened is the streets got closed. The city of Anna Maria was forced to do the same thing. So now they've closed their streets. And so you now have a parking nightmare. And I frankly talked to the secretary, the district secretary, and he said the problem folks have is they don't know where to park. So they get out on the main street, further clogging Gulf Drive. So we had this long meeting, about 2 hours long, and I said, what about a parking garage? And we left that meeting not with any commitment about a parking garage, but a way to move forward and study it, and maybe that's an option. A month later, the city of Holmes Beach decides to ban parking garages within the city of Holmes Beach. And I was just shocked. Now, they say it's a clarification, and it was not. And I talked to Senator Boyd, and I at that point had made the decision in my mind that the city was part of the problem and not the solution. So we as a government had to act. And so what did I do? I commissioned experts. I talked to staff. I spent a lot of time on this bill. It was a little different. I was trying to take away their authority to park. And staff was like, no, we really can't do that. How about this? How about that? We spent a lot of time. And I came up with this idea, talked to Senator Boyd about it. And we said, okay. And so we had a very somewhat terse local delegation meeting, but it passed unanimously through the delegation. A local bill, let me back up, this is a local bill, only affects our area. It's not a general bill, so it has to go through a delegation meeting. And it passed unanimously. So I filed the bill. And I think before the committee stopped, I took input from Mayor Chappie. Mayor Chappie of Bradenton Beach said, well, we're included in here. Are you really going to need a parking garage in the city of Bradenton Beach? So I talked to the chair and county staff and frankly talked to all the commissioners. And I think, no, that's not important. We have plenty of parking in Coquina. So I took that out. And then I thought the bill was a little bit unclear. I think I said 4 stories. And I wanted to respect the height within the city of Holmes Beach. So I actually took their height requirement within their code and plugged it in to the bill. So no one can say you're going above the height that's allowable. To me, if you permit vacation rentals for the millionaires and billionaires, you should be allowed to have a parking garage for those working class folks that want to just visit the beach. So to me, it made perfect sense. So we get to the first committee. It's a little tenuous, but in my goal of including everyone, I talked to every member in that committee, including the Democrats. And I was shocked by one thing. The Democrats were equally with me as the Republicans were, because they saw their citizens that were certainly maybe less affluent than my constituents from the middle of St. Pete, downtown St. Pete, or the inner city of Tampa that now couldn't visit the beach. So they were as with me as the Republicans were. And we had a very interesting meeting. I could just tell, the city came up with 4 or 5 folks to testify. It was not working. I had several members that were texting me during the meeting, can I vote twice in favor of this? Passed the first committee unanimously, passed the second committee unanimously, passed the third committee unanimously. It's ready for the House floor, and I didn't get a single question from 120 members in the Florida legislature. Passed unanimously off the House floor, goes over to the Senate, passes unanimously off the Senate floor. I'm a little bit worried about a governor's veto. I've had 2 bills vetoed, by the way, which is the most in the Florida legislature. I'm not ashamed this is being videotaped, but I have had 2 bills vetoed. One was, I tried to be, and the judges and the attorneys in the room can appreciate this, I tried to make my bill retroactive. And you're really not supposed to do that. And the governor said, nope, not going to make it retroactive. I pushed a little bit too much. What did I do? I did involve the governor's office. So that bill was vetoed. Another bill I had as a freshman is actually a speaker priority to put a warning label on a lottery ticket. Gambling's bad, or what is their slogan? Whatever the lottery, play responsibly, which is their slogan. And the lottery people objected to that. Anyway, that's a different story. But the governor vetoed that bill, afraid of the fiscal, that folks would buy less lottery tickets if there was a warning label. So I've had 2 bills vetoed. So I was a little bit, you never know. And this kind of goes back to my theme of include everyone. So I called the governor's office and I said, person at governor's office, I won't mention the name. Here's the bill, here's what it does. And let me just make sure the governor knows one thing, that this was done during the peak of COVID. And that is the one thing, the governor's been strong in everything, but his response to the situation in our state on COVID is what he's known for. And I said, make sure the governor knows that. This was caused because of that issue. And she's like, message delivered. So the bill passed, the governor signed it into law. And, through that, I've had some very terse conversations with our island mayors, but always conversations. We're always meeting. We're always talking. We're always trying to find common ground. And we will always try to do that. But, frankly, and I've talked to the island mayors about this, and, the second component of that local delegation meeting is what to do out there at the island. Does it have the right government structure? I am personally concerned that as voting population goes down, there are fewer and fewer people to vote, and either crazier people get in or you don't have people that can run for office. So the legislature will be looking at that. And as I told all 3 island mayors, we may do nothing. It's in the legislature's sole power and authority, along with obviously getting a lot of public input. Is there something we need to do out there? The answer may be nothing. But I am concerned because as cities grow and develop, they have certain goals and aspirations. And out there on the island, for a variety of reasons, folks have left the island to the point where Bradenton Beach has 90% vacation rentals. And so you have that small amount of people voting that affects the other 90% of the property owners. That's when the legislature has to step in. We've heard of the concept of preemption. That's what the parking garage bill does. And my view on preemption is it's the job of the legislature to step in when the overall economy is impacted. And I thought that was the case with the parking garage. Another quick example, in the infinite wisdom of Key West, they decided to ban the retail sale of sunscreen, thinking that it was hurting the coral. Are you kidding me? One of the most sunniest cities in the world, and you can't sell sunscreen. What's next? No umbrellas sales in Seattle. So we preempted that. But to go back to the island, and so we will look at that as a delegation. We may do nothing. We frankly have looked at Longboat Key. That's another thing we've looked at. Is it fair to have that island in 2 different counties? Now Sarasota wants it all. I seem to think Manatee should get it all, but that's just my personal opinion. But we've debated that, and we will debate this issue because I want to make sure the island is set up as strongly as possible and as unified as possible and has a strong unified voice as possible. I was very interested to see how 3 island mayors, how that would look in a hurricane situation. Are we all working together? So those are all things that we will look at. You look at Longboat Key to the north, they have 1 city for the same island. But I talk to Chappie about this a lot. I like to respect, and I must respect, the individuality of each city. So there's a lot of things you have to look at when you make a big decision like that. So that is something that we will definitely look at. And we've actually ordered what's called an APAGA study that the state legislature will commission to just look at the numbers. What are the numbers? What does it look like? What can we do? Et cetera. So those are 2 bills and 2 ideas that I passed. And in terms of this upcoming session, it is going to be interesting with a governor running for president, I got to say. And he was in our area before, and he is full go on all sorts of issues. And it will be interesting as a legislature to see how we react, how we work with the governor's office, who's over there at the governor's office, because we've worked so well as a group over the past 5 years. We've had our differences. We had a big difference in redistricting, but we got that worked out eventually. I can tell you that story at some point. But there are some times we disagree with the governor and push back. But he has that veto pen. That's a very powerful right of our governor, or any governor for the most part, is that veto pen. So I would expect this session to be very robust. And the 2 things I've heard about the most are insurance, actually 3 things, insurance. I'm sure everyone in this room, and certainly listening, have had the awful news of what their claim or what their rates are going to be for the next year. We didn't get into this mess in a year. We're not, unfortunately, going to get out of this mess in a year. And I'll end with one stat, or a couple stats. Tommy Gregory handled a lot of this stuff. He handled some insurance issues and the tort reform issues, and I asked for some stats for him. We did a lot of litigation reform. Now, in the state of Florida, we have 8% of the population, 8% of the claims, but 86% of the litigation. One lawyer in Florida filed 75,000 lawsuits, and right before the effective date of the tort reform bill, 200 lawsuits were filed in 7 days. So my point in telling you that the reforms that we enacted are going to take time, because obviously the court system now has to litigate or prosecute all those new filings. And the very kind of reason for some of the things we did was to do some reforms in litigation, unnecessary litigation. So we've got to do more, because what we've done so far is not effective, and folks are still feeling the pain of 25, 50% increases. The good news is you have some of the very best people in the legislature, Tommy Gregory, Chair of Judiciary, and Jim Boyd, who knows insurance better than anyone, who actually carried the insurance bill for the Senate last time, that are busily working on this bill to make sure we have it in the right posture. And certainly, we've all heard about affordable housing, great work Commissioner Cruz has done on that issue. Well, we passed a massive workforce housing bill last year, and it's very important. Many of y'all are employers, to make sure that our students and our folks stay here, and our area and our state is becoming less and less affordable, whether it's insurance or renting or property taxes. So we'll continue to look at those cost drivers within the state of Florida. But it's just my pleasure. I love coming back home, so to speak. We are in such a great position in Florida in the sense that we are growing, but that's also a problem, isn't it? That comes with challenges, whether it's with our infrastructure, our water, our sewer, our schools. But we are well positioned to succeed, and we just got to keep doing what we're doing. And we're finding a few things here and there. But it's always been my pleasure. It's kind of crazy that I'm running for my last House term in the Florida House. It goes by fast. But many of y'all may not know this, but Mr. Aldrich was my teacher in 7th grade, and so King Middle. So I wouldn't be here but for you and for the other folks that got me here, including my great mom. So thank you all. God bless. It's always great to be here. Oh yeah. I try to leave quickly before questions or any questions. I have left that decision to our great county commissioners. That I've given them the authority to do what they want to do, and then they can decide whether they want to build it or not, or charge. Yes, sir.
You may or may not be able to answer this question. I would like for you to please define affordable housing. And so, and there's a reason why I'm asking the question, and I'm sure you probably already know. But how do you define affordable housing? And how do you come up with what is affordable housing?
Well, I don't pretend to be an expert. I mean, I know there's state and federal standards that they use for those exact definitions, workforce housing, affordable housing, but I don't necessarily know them off the top of my head right now.
Okay. No, the reason why I asked the question is because it changes. Affordability. Different people can afford different things. And what's affordable for you might not be so affordable.
That's true.
And that's why I asked the question.
There is a certain standard based upon your income level, so it wouldn't be relevant as to what an individual person can afford or not afford. It's what their actual income level is. Yes, sir.
Is there anything on the board considering rapid transit or rail transit in this state? Is it anything that possibly be going back on the board that will never happen?
I think there's some ideas, and I know there's some. For instance, Universal is undergoing a major expansion. I know there's going to be some light rail there. I don't know exactly to where. Maybe I think it's to Tampa or some other area. So there are some plans for some light rail. Certainly, I'm sorry?
Is that a private deal?
That would be private, yes. So there's no state-run plans that I know of for light rail. Yes, sir.
What do you think are the top 3 concerns in Florida?
Insurance. Like I mentioned, I would say, well, insurance is definitely number 1. And 2 and 3, I would just say cost drivers, affordability. Florida is becoming less and less affordable, whether you want to talk about affordable housing or taxation or inflation. That's not really something we can control. We try to. We passed the largest tax cut in the history of Florida to drive down some of the cost drivers that Floridians can face because of the nonsense that's coming out of D.C. So certainly inflation is something, but we obviously can't control that number in Florida. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any bills or plans for bills in the future that you're aware of that is going to try to conserve some of our agricultural lands in the state of Florida so that we don't suffer consequences later on in our lives regarding importing?
Yes. Yeah. There's always massive legislation about not only conserving agricultural land, but protecting agricultural land. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
There's a bill right now, a funding bill. I think it's in the Senate, having to do with the military. And there's a clause in it that a senator is holding up the bill because of this clause having to do with abortion. So what I want to know is why can't they just take one clause out and get the damn bill passed?
Well, that would be common sense. The issue you're talking about is thankfully in the U.S. Congress and the Senate. We don't have those rules. And I don't believe one senator in Florida could hold up something like that. Certainly not without the presiding officer agreeing for that. So it's totally different in Florida.
One more.
They don't do it.
I can't help you there. I'm not a U.S. senator. Maybe someday. Oh, thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's not a question, it's a thank you from the Macon County School Board. You've always been a champion of a lot of stuff that we're doing with appropriations and we'll be knocking, of course, the door again this year, but I just want to say thank you for what you've done for the Macon education. And I don't know if many people know this, but Guy Harvey, the academy that's out of Edinburgh Island Elementary, there were several other ones that were on that were sent to the governor, and all those were vetoed except for ours. So I'm sure that was a push between our great delegation we have here in Manatee County. So thank you very much.
Well, like I said earlier, I wouldn't be here but for my Manatee County public education. So I'm very proud of what you all do and what all our teachers do in Manatee County to educate folks today, because it's tough out there. And it's important we thank them and give them the right resources and give all the kids the right resources to make sure they can succeed.
All right, thank you very much.
Do I get the bell? No.
I'll just ring the bell at the end. All right, as tradition with Kiwanis, I'm going to present you first with our challenge coin representing our 100 years, and also the coveted Manatee County Kiwanis Golden Ruler.
Oh, thank you.
That may be a future success. All right, because you wanted to, you can ring the bell to close the meeting.
Ah, great. Did I talk too long?
You did. You're good. Thanks very much.